Well, we're back working on the Mustang again today. As you can see, have quite a bit of this laid out all over the floor. Starting to do some disassembly on the drive unit. This came to us from 057 Tech, fully assembled, ready to go, but it has much too wide of a track width to fit inside of the 66 Mustang. So even with the fiberglass fender flares, we gain about 5 inches, really close to 6 at the top of the flare, but really overall 5 inches on the width of the Mustang. But even with that, the tires stick out 3 inches too far on both sides still. So you can actually see I've started installing. I had the custom upper control arms made. The uppers are super easy. We just made them out of 1-inch plate aluminum and had them water jetted out, and then pressed the old the old pins out of them and put them into the new, and they are working great. The lowers are going to be a little tougher. These are actually cast aluminum pieces, so I'm dropping them off today to get full custom welded steel. Luckily these are actually completely flat. I was thinking about going with a tube steel, but we're probably just gonna make it out of flat steel, just flat plate, and take it up and make it look very, very similar to what it was from the factory. But I'm hoping to have those back in a couple weeks, but we're gonna drop these off today so we can get all of his measurements off of them. Really, it's gonna be a pretty simple one to recreate, but still beyond my wheelhouse. I can weld, but that's got to be pretty welding. And I'm not good at TIG, so. Along with that, here's our CV axles. These CV axles are super beefy. I have never come across such beefy CV axles on any car in my life, but with the amount of torque this thing is capable of putting out, it makes a lot of sense. I was really hoping that there'd be somebody out there in the world that would be willing to take these on and shorten them, but everybody I talked to was like, nope, that is too much of a liability. We will not shorten those CV axles. We will completely replace them with new, but you know, we're talking $1,000 for a set. It might have even been more than that. Maybe it was $1,000 a piece. It was a lot of money is all I remember. So we will be sending those out though to get customized and also shortened 3 inches. So with that, the drive unit, you know, we're shortened the throw of the suspension by about 3 inches, which, you know, if it was going into like an Imperial or, you know, something that was supposed to be a nice, comfortable cruiser, I would be worried about losing that suspension play because it would actually be detrimental to the ride quality of the vehicle. But in this particular case, we're building a race car here. You know, it's going to look good. It's going to go fast. And it's going to have a really tight suspension setup. So I'm not too sad about losing that 3 inches of travel on each side, or 3 inches of arm. So it's going to be just fine. Moving on to other updates though. So we had a lot of people online telling us, hey, don't worry about, you know, trying to fix or replate that frame rail. Because it's easier to just buy new frame rail and weld it in. You know, I still had planned to just cut the bottom out because it appeared to be only the bottom that was the issue. Nope, not the case. We got in here and started grinding on it more. Come to find out, it has already had a frame rail replacement at one point, but they only did the back portion, and they just capped it, and then they bonded over everything else. So you can see this is what I came across first, was on the bottom of the frame rail. I'm like, oh, okay, that's not a big deal. I can cap that. But the farther we went up, you can see all that rust. So I ground back to where we do have good steel. We're going to cut this whole frame rail out and replace it. And we're actually going to do that on both sides. So over here wasn't quite as bad, but I still did get into a little bit of issues. And there, again, about 1/8 of an inch of Bondo on this thing. I've never seen anything like it in my life. Hard to tell just by on camera, but yeah, it's super deep. So that's an update on rust. So we're going to order up those frame rails. We ground into it just this weekend. And so now I got to order frame rails. Luckily, it'll be from CJ Pony Parts. They're out of Vegas, and they get us parts real quick. It's usually 1 or 2 days, and we have all the parts we need. So that's exciting. One last update real quick on the frame. on the brakes. Started putting together the brake kit. Got the sleeve kit for it. And actually, let me find those other pieces. Well, as you can see, this steps it up on bearing size. So here's our bearing. And you can see that sleeve right there. Same for the rear bearing. Small sleeve. And that allows you to run the 5-lug system on a 4-lug brake. Or sorry, on a 4-lug spindle. The rest of the spindle is the exact same size. Now the downside is, start assembling this, and they sent me the wrong seals in that kit. So the seals are just too sloppy on this spindle. So I'm going to have to go and just get a new set of seals on Monday. That's not a big deal though. I'm not even going to go back to CJ Pony Parts for that one. I'm just going to go get my own seals and move on. So that's a brake update. Last update is battery. So, like I said, my contactor was bad. Reached out to EV West and got a new contactor. These guys are sold from an Australian company. But EV West out of California actually stocks these. See if it'll focus. There we go. So they actually stock these contactors. And the contactor is just a pure, positive, negative. When you turn the key to turn the vehicle on, the contactor connects and it allows power out of your battery to go to the drive unit. Now on top of that, before the contactor, you want to limit the amount of power that can possibly come from the battery and go to that drive unit so it doesn't blow up a bunch of electronics inside the drive unit. And so you have to run a pre-charger before that. Here's the pre-charger. This is also from the company out of Australia. Ziva is the Australian company, by the way. But this is, again, super easy to wire. Positive, negative, you have your key on, key off, and this will limit the amount of power going from the battery to the drive unit. And then, and this all goes in line, just in the positive line of things, to get the positive battery cable to the positive cable on the drive unit. So we've got all the parts. I think I'm going to actually stop this video and wire it real quick, and so we can actually see this thing turning under its own power. So stay tuned. I'm going to shut this off and we're going to go from there.